Welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream with live peoples, recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I'm playing in the Harry Potter Magical Places and Characters colouring book. It is just an ordinary colouring book, but if I use very little colour and a very firm, a medium firm colour shaper, like a blender, I can make the pastel adhere to the shiny paper, and by going over the top with a damp brush I can set it to a watercolour, and it gives me some different variations than ordinary pencils, which just at the moment I can't use. Now the pencils are Derwent pencils, but this is a vintage set. This is an old set, so they're a little bit softer than the newer ones, and the strip of colour is a little bit different. It's a millimetre less, so they're a little bit crumblier, and these are a little bit stronger, and these is in the new set of 72, so they're very bold, and I do have that set. It's the set that I did the Hagrid page in here, so you get some really nice bold colours, and I love that, but I've fallen in love with these very pale pastel colours, which I've had for many years, and then I found another set, another few extra, because there's 90 in this set, so I've almost got them all. And they've just got there's 30 colours, and each colour has 3 tones, so there'll be 3 chocolates. One will be very pale, one will be a dark coloured chocolate, and then there'll be a very, very deep chocolate colour. And that gives you 3 tones, so you've got a medium tone, you've got a highlight and a shadow, and I really like that. I really find that's quite good, but you don't really need that for here because the blender will do the work for you. And then I use an eraser, and unfortunately I have to use an electric eraser, but that will then make a highlight for you, so you can still get some really nice highlights and low lights and shadows. So in this top corner here, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to do this page. I think this is Hogsmeade's pub. I can't think what it's called. Oh, thanks, Karen. Thanks, Karen. Let me just zoom in a little bit, and we'll just have a play. It's an impromptu because I was late this morning, so I didn't get a chance to do a lot which I normally do on a morning in the UK, which I think is normally about 2 o'clock in the morning at US. So I don't ever envisage having lots and lots of live chat. It's a very quiet chat room is mine because it happens to be early in the morning. Because my chat normally is on a Tuesday, but as I say, Tuesday afternoons. But I'm going to change that back to Thursdays because I can't do Tuesdays anymore. It's just not good. So they look to be like bricks. So we're going to go at what I normally do, and it's going to be a bit difficult to show you, but we'll have a go. Sorry about the noise. What I'd like to do is I get all the pencils and I look to see what I've got. So in here I've got some browns, I've got some greys, and I've got some greeny blues and some bluey blues. So I like to put them in dark order. So we know that indigo is definitely the darkest one. I don't have black, although I have actually started using black. First time ever using black, but it's very, very good for pastels. So then we've got the chocolate colours and the browns. And I find sometimes if I'm looking at something and I want to go slightly lighter or slightly darker, when I put the pencil back where it was, I know I can just go to either side. I don't have to start fiddling through everything because that would drive me insane. And it's a bit like time management. It actually is quite good. That's a reddy brown, so we know we've got a reddy brown. Now, and the other good thing about pastels is, because these are almost pure pigment, when you look at the end here, this is the colour you're actually going to get. They don't differ because there's no binder to change it. Like the Inktense has got a different binder. You look at an Inktense pencil and you haven't got a clue what it is at the end. But when you look at the pastels, that's what you get. So again, we've got some greens, which I'm going to put at that side. I should have done this earlier, but it's quite good to have a go. Now there's a Chinese white, don't really want to use that, but again the palest one. And I'm looking at tonal value more than I'm looking at colours. You see, I think that red is actually as dark as that. So again, that's sometimes another thing to look at, because you might want to change the colour very slightly. So I'm going to put those here, and then we'll end up probably with all the warms at this end and all the greys at that end. That's another way of doing it. But you can sort them whichever's easiest for you. It's got to be your kind of choice, because you're the one that's going to be picking these up and putting them down. And if they're not in the nice order for you, then it's not going to be nice. It's not. I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to put them in olivey colours, because if you pick them up in the wrong order, you can actually rub them out. That's another beautiful thing about these pencils. If you make a complete boo-boo, you can actually pull them out. So that's quite nice. But I think they're more of a fawny colour. So just about here, we're going to get the browns and the chocolates. And then these cool greys will want to go here with the blues, and then that red can just go into there. So I'm a happy girl now. I've got them all in tonal value, so I know that my darks are at this end. I'm just going to move the pinks across. I think I'll put the pinks there. There's 3 warm pinky tones there, so I'm just going to pop those there. So if I roll these up, oopsie, here, you can see that I go from cold, dark cold, light cold, warm, pinky, fawn coloured, greeny, and then orangey, yellowy to white. So that's quite easy to use. And the other thing I do is oopsie, I'm just going to move that slightly. I'll do this afterwards because it'll take a while. You get all the pencils to sit with their names upright. All of them in order, and I take a photograph. And that's like my palette of pencils. So I know that I can go away and I can come back and I can say, right, what pencils were I using? And I don't leave them out. So if anybody's got any questions, pop them in caps. Because I don't often look across, because I get a bit I get a bit waylaid when I'm looking at my colours. So I need a baby wipe. This is actually from yesterday, but it's a little bit damp. So the baby wipe sits across just above your page. Don't put it near your page because it'll buckle your pages. So just above your book. So when you're blowing any excess dust, it's going to go straight onto there and it will not be floating about your desk. I kind of I stroke very carefully the blending tool on the hard surface of the desk, and that cleans a lot of the colour off, and then I rub it off with the finger. There's my damp brush if I decide to do it damp, but I haven't decided yet. And there's my little tiny blending tool there. I'm not going to use the soft ones. I'm just going to use probably one and this little tiny one, I think, and it's almost clean. Has somebody got any questions? excuse me, and the minute you touch, I should have put these the other way because I've got all the, if you touch the end of the pencil onto here, it will just smudge because that's what it does. I'm going to put that paper clip there because otherwise they'll all be on the floor. So if I look at my, I don't need all the other ones, if I look at my reference painting, we've got a picture there, we've got some greys, a bit of green there, and that ties into the green painting, so we can either do the background or the paintings first. I think we might do the paintings actually. So we've got the darkest green here, which is possibly, and again I can't use my thumb, so ideally you would do this and keep the pencil almost vertical and just scratch a bit of colour, or you can do this and hold it and just tap. I tend to do this and keep my thumb out of the way, and I use this part of my two fingers and push down like you're using chopsticks. It's the top chopstick chop, and just squish a bit of colour in, not too much because this is quite dark. I might just do one first actually. Pop that back where it goes, get the next lightest colour, and again we've got a fairly light bit here, so have a bit of a look where you want the colour. Your reference is as important as your pencils. It's not there because unless you want to mix it up. Now the beautiful thing about this is you can do a quite nice replica, a composition, if you use the colours that they've put in the book for you. But with some of the other books like the Bennett Kleins and the Colin Thompson and the Garden books, I love to, if it's a fantasy world, I'll use fantasy colours and I'll make them up myself completely as I go along. If it's more of a kind of we know what it looks like kind of thing, I want more of a realistic kind of painting. So I tend to work differently in different books, and that gives me a little bit extra, because if you work the same way in the book it might get a little bit boring. And again I use the two fingers to move this blending tool, and I'm not scrushing down, I'm just very careful. You can go in circular motions, you can push up and down. If it was a bark I would go in one direction, because you're creating marks even though you're smudging them in to make a mark. Then if we look on this, there's some kind of grey there, so we'll move from those gorgeous grey browns. If I just move that slightly back that way, you can see when I pick the colours. And it's just like having, I mean, how many? I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 20. I've got 29 colours there. And if I use black, I'm going to be using 30 colours on here. So 30 colours is a good palette. You know, that's going to give me a good scope. And then if you think you can blend them all together, there's hundreds of colours all sitting here waiting for me to get the nearest one and then kind of manipulate it to the colour that it has to be. Oh, hi Dee Dee, welcome to Bunny's Designs. I'm working in the Harry Potter magical places and characters, and we're doing, I think that's the Hogsmeade pub, I just can't remember what it's called. I've got short-term memory loss, and as much as I love Harry Potter and I've read the book several times, I cannot remember what it's called. Is it Hogsmeade? But that's actually the place, I think, isn't it? So we've got a little bit of grey going on here. Excuse me. So we need to now look down here to, we've been in these gorgeous colours here. This actually seems to be a little bit of a sepia. And again, if you're not sure what's going to happen, scratch it out. Now that looks, oh, that's obviously got something else on it. Yeah, some of them are like this, but these are vintage. These are very old, so anything can kind of happen. It has a bit of a strain through it. Does this? It has a red strain through it. Very weird. But I actually really like that, so I'm just going to put a touch of this in here. I've just got to remember not to use that silly thumb. If I use my thumb, I'll be using blue language, so I better not use the thumb. There's a bit of an umber, and again, there's a bit of umber in there, so we can put a little bit of a mark there. And again, we don't really want to be doing too much because we've got that stain on there. We can't really add on top of it too much. It won't like it. I quite like the French grey, but I don't know which one I want. I think that might be too much. Oopsie. Let's have a look at the other French grey. So this is a bit bluer. So possibly a little bit of that in there. And just a touch of the very dark in odd places. And then if you can see, I'll zoom in a bit more so you can actually see there is hardly any white paper left, and that's really what you want when you're going to do your blend, because that means that what you've got there, and because the colour's on the end, I'm actually going lighter. It means you're going to get all those colours in there. There's going to be a little bit of a blend. They're going to be pushed into that paper, and you're going to get some really nice colours. Now I think that's possibly a little bit too dark, and I do have some of that grey, so I'm going to just smush that about a bit because we want it to be a little bit darker and a bit kind of gungier than that. But the burnt umber and I think the dark chocolate, this is the burnt umber, so what we can do again is just barely touching. I'll do this once, but I'll never do it again. If you push down, see all the dust that you create. I'm just barely stroking the page, because I don't want any dust for two reasons. One is I've got asthma, but the other one is that's my pure colour there, and I don't want to waste it. So I blow, and barely nothing moves, and then we can just kind of very carefully smudge this in. And I have no idea what the dog's chewing at the end under the table, so it's quite funny because every time I move, he jumps on the table, he jumps on the chair, and it's like, oh, I want to go now. So I've moved my desk and he's not happy. So it's not quite as dark and it's not perfect, but we can go in there and play a bit more, but it's the basics down. Possibly a little bit darker, and I think that might be the dark chocolate. I think it might be the French grey. Again, there was a mark here, and I didn't put this mark in before, but there's a mark there. It's obviously quite old, and but it is a warmish kind of colour. It's not just put a bit of a darker on there, see what happens. There was a bit more came off there, but you can just push that in. And the first time you start something, you think, oh, that's not right, it doesn't look anything like it, but what will happen is after you've done it for a little bit, everything looks quite similar. So you might not get it photorealistic, but it doesn't matter because it's working. The colours are right, and if the colours are right, the drawing's already been done for you. So you may find it looks all a very paler version of your reference, but that might be okay. So I mean, it's not perfect, but it's given the idea that that should be there. And of course it's a different drawing, so I think I've picked the wrong drawing. Yes, I've picked the wrong drawing, but it doesn't matter because what I can do is, this isn't set, remember, so I can go in here with my highlighter. I was looking at that and it was that one. That confused me. Again, sometimes I don't like the drawings because they're not correct. And then we can, what I do is I take the eraser out, and if you look at the other end, I've actually done it before. Excuse me. So in my little packet of erasers there's some blunt ones and there's some sharp ones. So I'll take a sharp one, and that's a very sharp edge. It's not a point, but it is a sharp edge. So hopefully I can put that into there, push it in, and then I can get just tapping, again not using the thumb, just tapping. There's a highlight across there, and there's a highlight across there. Now sometimes you've got to practice to get this, so the best thing to do would be to get is to photocopy. And again, if you go too much white, don't worry about it, it's not that important. You just need a bit of going on. And then what we really need to do is to do this, so you have to forgive me if I'm in the light. It's just to go round and create that. So I was looking at that one, and it was actually that one. That excuse me. And then actually there is one other piece of equipment we need. We need the fluffy brush. We need the fluffy brush, which has disappeared. The fluffy brush has disappeared. I swear I have a phantom. Yeah, I can't use any of these. I use my I have some beautiful watercolour brushes which are completely useless to me because I cannot use watercolours at the moment. So I had, it doesn't really matter, you can use a cheapy one. What you've just got to remember is if you smush down on there you will move it. So you've got to be the lightest touch. And because I've taken too much light off there, if you can see, there's actually too much light. I'm going to actually go back over and smudge it a bit to kind of grunge it up a bit. So you can always kind of go in and out, just like you can normally with when you're doing something else. And I actually want a bit of a stain across there, don't I? So you can do all sorts of things. And we could have just a little bit of kind of marks on there because there's obviously something going on. And you can take as little or as long as you want. You might think, oh my goodness, can't be bothered doing that, in which case, you know, you can just colour it in one and leave it, it'd be fine. But I kind of like messing about a little bit, so there is some kind of shade. So I've just got my Yes, I love that as well, Dee Dee. Excuse me. Yeah, Dee Dee says um, she loves the fact you can erase so easily. Yeah, if you haven't blended, even if you have blended, you can still make a highlight, but what you can't do is get it to completely disappear. But I'm bound to make a mistake, so you will see that at some point. In fact, that's probably the best. I was going to use that as a watercolour because I don't like to waste things, but that was quite... Oh, I can't use... I'll do that last. I'll try and take that very, very dark colour off. And you'll see there is a little bit of a stain, but most of it's gone. So again, if you think, oh, well, now I've lost that highlight again, you can kind of go back in there. Or you can leave doing this till last. It's entirely up to you. You know, you are the boss of your colour books, to pinch Dee Dee's phrase. So you can do whatever you want to do. But once everything else is finished, that's going to look kind of okay. It's not going to look like, oh gosh, that's completely the wrong colour. It's all going to be, well, that might be slightly out, but it fits that kind of image. And again, it's drawn wrong, so sometimes that drives me insane. Things are drawn differently. So we had those silver greys. So the white's right over there. Those blacks want to be down here. Excuse me. So we had the silver greys, which were... And I do try to have a look at the colours as well, because you eventually get used to them. I think we're talking about the French grey. I think that would be quite nice there. Although that's a burnt umber, so let me have a bit of a play. Because again, I haven't played with these. I don't really know the colours. That's a bit too warm. So if you look here, that's going to be too warm. Now, if you don't mind warm, that's fine. But I didn't want warm. I pulled out a few grey colours here. I think that's possibly a little bit too warm as well. I want the walls to be quite cold. Excuse me. I seem to have got my cold back again. So I'm going to look for French grey, and they should be here. So we've got ultramarine and a French grey. I think that might be a little bit too blue. Oopsie. And again, there seems to be a bit of something on here. Let me see if I can just get that off. Sometimes if somebody's drawn over something else, and this is why I would never... Yeah, it's better now. It's back to now. There's nothing on the end there now. I would never put these over the top of anything else, because these are designed to be your detail last thing you use. But for colour books, I think they're quite spectacular. So I think I'm going to do the little... Although I think that's probably going to be a little bit too light. I think that's... Yep. But we'll put a little bit, just a little bit of a strip. And I can't use my thumb, but I can just scratch. And it's not going to be perfect, but you know, this is a few 100-year-old wall, so it's going to forgive me a little bit. And that's kind of a greyer grey, so that's going to be quite nice. And again, it's not drawn quite as nice as I would have liked it, so I'm going to actually keep going in these directions to see if we can kind of keep some kind of continuity going. And that should give us, at the end, that should give... and we'll try it with this one, and we know which colours we're using because we're using these. There's an indigo F, which is cold and different. And sometimes, even if this colour is completely way out, using these tones, it's going to make it look like an old wall, because you've put in several different greys. I actually kind of want a bit of this one in as well, I think. And what you have to remember is not to leave any white. because that's going to give you your first complete layer, because there's no white there at all. But it's just quite a nice, and they're very soft, very little effort at all. So I quite like that. So again, I'm just going to blow. Hardly anything moved. Now I do have a brownie grey there, so I've got to take that off because I do not want brownie grey in there. I really don't want. Oh, well, I suppose it might not. Sometimes it doesn't matter. So I'm going to do those first. And I do like to sometimes get rid of the lines, but I don't think we'll do that today. So kind of keep going in different directions, and that's going to cause that kind of bumpy, old, relic kind of wall. And that's what we want. A lot of the Harry Potters are kind of oldie. We live near York, and it's quite medieval kind of oldie worldy. And again, that's not perfect, but it's a grey wall. And I'm going to take it slightly darker that way and slightly lighter that way. But you can go back in there if you think, well, actually, if you look, that's a bit darker. I don't like that. It's not darker, it's dark. And again, we forget about the highlights because that's the eraser at the end. Oh, hi Marie. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. Anybody else that I've missed? If you've got any questions, pop them in caps. Otherwise, I'm kind of just waffling a little bit. I hope my light's okay. So I say I've got my reference there. Now it's coming to this kind of bit here. We can put maybe a little bit of that indigo that I like, just a touch, because it's very cold. Just want maybe a little tiny bit, maybe just under each brick, to kind of give them a bit of a shadow so we know what it is. But you can play about with this very nicely without any bother. And again, a little bit of a blend. But if you look now, most of that's just disappeared because we've already saturated our shiny page. We've got to the point where we're not going to get anything else on there really. We're just going to be able to make a bit of a highlight in a bit and then make a low light, and that's going to be it. So again, still staying with these 4 greys here because these are the greys I've chosen. So these are the greys I'm going to be using all the way down that wall, because if I start to change different colours it'll look different, and as long as I use all these they will be fine. I can introduce maybe a bit of a different colour, and my highlight can be, it isn't really a blue highlight, it's actually a cold, it's a bit of a cold highlight, that one. Maybe that's a bit warmer. I like this green highlight. Was it the green? No, it was this one. This said brown ochre, but it's just a bit cool. Oh no, it's not very cold, isn't that one? Sometimes it takes a while to get the colour that you actually want. But just adding a little bit of that very pale dark olive, and it's the F, so of course it is very faint. Actually, I should have used that one, but a little bit of a blow, and we'll just smudge that into there. And we've got the next bit done. So again, I want to work in the same way I've did these 4 colours here. We start in the direction of the bricks and then kind of carried on a bit as these bricks are, because I would have had to draw every one of those because I'm just like that. going to leave that because I'm not sure what to do with that. So again, just keep going in little marks just to indicate that there are other bricks, other highlights. It's a bit of a rough wall, it's not smooth plaster. Oh dear, sorry, I have no idea what he's barking at. I apologise. This is the monster. So sorry about that. I have no idea. The only good thing is we'll never be burgled. That's the only good thing, because he actually does want to bite. He's terribly afraid of everything. I think it's a terror thing, but he's obviously having a moment. So there's just a little bit of a tiny. I'm going to just see what this seal colour does. I think possibly like this dark kind of. These are obviously going to be kind of, oh, for goodness sake, sorry. There are obviously going to be some darker areas under certain bricks, because and I think Alf, where's Suzanne? Come on, Suzanne, put your foot down. He only listens to Suzanne. Oh dear. Oh gosh. You're a naughty boy, Alfie. I'm sorry about that. Dear me. Yes, Alf is just there's no words for Alf. No words at all. He's just a bad puppy. He's just a bad puppy. So if we can get a basic colour down, like I did with the Hagrid one, they can go back and start to think, well, actually that needs a bit of a shadow on it, and there's a bit of a highlight. And it's different to working with ordinary pastels. You could do this with ordinary pastels. You just have to use the tiniest amount of dust. But you could do that. It's not impossible. Oh, sorry. I should not use my phone. We watched Evan Almighty in the UK a few nights ago, and every time he hit his thumb, my thumb was throbbing. So bless. There we go. So they're slightly different, those, because I put the blue in that one, and I don't think I like it. Not thinking I like it, but I've done it now. So there's a bit of dark in there as well. The one thing you've got to remember is not to put your hand on it, because it's kind of set now. Sorry, it's not set now. So all that, if I just put my hand over that, it would smudge. So that's why I'm working left to right. If you were right-handed, if I was right-handed, I would be working in that top corner instead of that one. So I'm going to work in that corner. I'm going to go across until this colour ends, and then I'll probably do the next section, because I know what I'm doing with these colours. They want some continuity, and here wants continuity, because I could not go over there, because that's a different shade, because the light's hitting it differently, so it's a slightly different colour. And you've got to remember that. So it's always a good idea to try and do one section, because all those colours are going to be the same, and they're going to be only slightly different because of the light, but they're all going to be in there somewhere. Oh, thank you, Kimberly. Thanks for stopping by. So I did put a little bit of blue in there, but I can change that blue. I don't know why I put that in there. I like the indigo in there. I think that was better. But again, you see, you can darken things up. But I don't want to go into this detail quite so fast. I want to get the basic colour down, because when you look at it overall, you can then go over it and just create that bit of shadow there, and that bit of shadow there, which is what the next bit is going to be. It's going to be quite dark, is that? So how light can we get if I just smudge? You see, I've got some dirt on the end of here, there. So if I can just smudge that out. Now this does take a little bit more oomph than normal, but what that does is you've actually got the same colour, but you've got a highlight on it, and it's exactly the same. So again, I quite like that, instead of having to make that colour up. And I'm going to take that out because I don't like that. So I'm going to take that colour out of there, and you'll see, even though I've blended it, it's not all disappeared, but it's left a stain, just a very light stain, because I didn't like that. But I do like this sepia as a kind of a, and this is from the new set. The new set's got some really good colours in it, so I should have maybe done this in the new set, but I wanted to have a play. And I want to do the lady who was the Gryffindor portrait, but I don't have that pink, and I know that I can get that pink, so I want to do that. Now, I don't know what the rivets are, but I think they're going to be quite dark. So I'm going to put these in, and anything else that I feel that's going to kind of, now this is how I did the forest. You've got to kind of really emphasize that dark stain, because it needs to be well in there at the beginning. So I actually quite like that. I like that. I shouldn't have. I can go back in there and darken those up, but that's given me some kind of smut at the end to do the next one, which is this one. And sometimes that's all it takes. That looks really, really good, and it was just a smudge, because the colour, the pigment in these is fab. Now there seemed to be a little bit of a shadow down here, so I don't really like those. I might have to I just really don't like those. I might have to take them out. And then it gets to here, and then we've got that real pale kind of blue, and blue is always colder anyway. So we can just see what happens when we very carefully create that there. And then we could do with, again, luckily I've got a point on this one, we could do with a bit of shadow there. There's kind of a bit of a shadow going off there, and maybe just a bit of something down there. It's just to create that kind of, nothing's clean, it's all kind of a bit oof kind of world, because that was a bit how the Harry Potter world was. It was all kind of a bit Victorianish. And you just keep building up. Now, as I say, you can't build too much, but you can just get a little bit better. And again, this is a colour book. It's not, it's not a work of art. It's just a colour book. I want to have fun. I don't really want to get too stressed because it doesn't look exactly the same. But I do want to be able to give it the best I can. So again, I'm going to go in there. Oops. Oh, again, I'm doing the wrong one. I always do the wrong one. Make that one a little bit darker as well. I think I can get some dark in here. I just really don't like those bricks. I think they're horrid. Really don't like them, but I do like that sepia colour, so let's see if we can just... It seems to be kind of cold but dark kind of colour on them. Then they'll probably sit better with the photo frames, I think, maybe. It's okay, I can live with that. I'll play with that a bit more if I want to, but I do like the... I think my colour's out slightly. I like that little bit. It's just warmed it up a touch because these are wood, so they're not going to be too cold. So this one has got all this kind of colour going. I'm not going to use the pale blue. I don't like the blue. I think the blue in it is the one that I didn't like. So if my thumb's in the way, silly thumb. I need to keep them a bit cooler than I was doing, so. And you can tell that these two colours are related. So, and this is probably the most boring bit to start with, but it's because it's in the top right corner, and that's what I wanted to start with. I'm going to put quite a deep shadow down there because it is quite a dark shadow. You still got to get, there is still some bricks there, so we've got to keep that. Kind of pattern going. Otherwise it won't look as good. Oh, thank you, Kimberly. Thanks for stopping by, darling. I hope everybody's okay. Thanks for stopping by. I didn't know if anybody else was going to stream. I just thought, because I was a bit late this morning, and I wanted to start on a new page. But like I say, this is a bit of a boring side, but because it's the top right, the top left corner, the top right corner, to avoid working on your working across yourself, it's a lot easier to do that. So by smushing in different directions, creating that illusion that that there is some kind of brickwork going on there. So how long have I been? Just I tried to keep the videos to about an hour. I've got about another 10 minutes. And because I want to finish this section and then kind of create this movement, I don't want to blend. I don't want to set that with a brush. But if I was just doing something like a flower, and the flower was finished, I would then take my little damp brush and I would wipe it on the baby wipe, and then I would take it a step further and really take that water off, and then I would just very carefully stroke dampness across just once, and then leave it, and it dries almost instantly, and then it becomes a set watercolour. But I'm going to go back in there and have a bit of a play so I can really get some more warmth in there. It's just not warm enough. It's not far out, but because I was using those colours, but it's okay. I can grey that up a little bit. It's probably not the most interesting of colours, but it was just of paintings, I should say. Whereas everybody loves Hagrid's cottage, so all a bit Harry Potter nutty around here. No, he hasn't. No, we took him outside and he wouldn't do anything, and took the nappy off him. And my daughter made it out of she put some sticky tape and made it out of a trainer pad, because he had like little shorts. I've got to show you a photograph. It looks like he's got. Oh, my phone's on the other side. If my husband comes in, I'll ask. And he's got like little shorts on. And she took him off, and then he came inside and did whatever he did inside. And it's like that was a complete waste then. He just has no concept of going outside. I think I quite like this Seal 660. It's quite a nice colour, but I'm going to just put a little bit of chocolate in there, because it is a warm frame. And again, look at your browns, look at your greys. Is it a grey brown? Is it a brown grey? And then I'll probably do that with a little one, because it's a bit of a smaller space. So, oh dear, picked up my eyesight. I take my glasses off. Picked up the brush. But you could do it. This is the other way of doing it, is to just take that brush and work with a damp brush, and then of course you wouldn't need to then do anything with it, and you can add a bit to it then. Oh, I've got to remember not to use that silly thumb. And again, that wants to be lightened up a little bit, so we can go in here with the eraser and take that, and if you use the eraser flat on, then you get a flatter kind of a highlight on there. Once you start playing with highlights, this is good if you're doing crystal glass. Drawing a crystal glass with a graphite pencil is amazing, because you can get some very cool effects. And then of course we've got quite a lot of light on those, so they start to come around a little bit, and they don't look quite as kind of. And then of course here it was lighter, and if you just kind of leave that stain, that's quite nice, because that's kind of the highlighty bit that you want. It's quite light, that bit there, for some reasons. The light's catching it from the other side. Just a bit of light on there, that side there. You can really make a difference. You can really start to make some highlights, and again here the light's hitting it and then it's kind of disappearing. So you can emphasize the shadows and the lights then to be kind of really and of course here is kind of almost you go back in and take that highlight back off. You've got to remember to just blend very carefully. So I'll just zoom out a bit, and you can see that I mean, it does take it takes its time, but that's quite nice sometimes. I like to sometimes kind of do a decent job. So when you see it as a page, it doesn't look too bad, because we can go back up here and put a bit more stain in a bit later when we've finished this section here. Oh, I've almost finished it actually. Then you can start to get just this little bit dark and light, and then it's finished, you go on to another section. That's how I work. So I've still got my pencils here, everything nearby. Oh, that's what I was going to show. So if I show you this, so your damp brush. Oh no, I wasn't. I was going to show you how to get rid of it. So quite a lot. You've made a mistake. It's not been blended. So where the pencil was just kind of touched, it's disappeared, but where I scribbled down a bit, there's a stain. But that's quite good, because that stain, this is photocopy paper, but it's about the same. But you can get rid of that very, very dark black, and you will leave a little bit of a stain, but you can go over that with another colour, and it's going to look a bit different. But probably where you put that dark one, you didn't want it that dark, but you still want it quite dark, so it works quite well. Oh, thank you, Dee Dee. I'm not particularly happy with it, but it'll be okay. Once we get some nice warms, remember, that's going to be a cold, boring grey bit there. But once we get down here and we get these warm lights coming in, and some more photographs, and that big wooden table, that's going to make it really, really nice. So you won't actually look up there. You will probably look at the pictures and you will follow yourself up the staircase, because again, that's what the composition wants you to do. And you look at the table and it'll draw your eyes. All lines draw your eyes somewhere. So you'll be drawn to the fire, you will hit the window because that's light, bounce off and look at the photographs, and then you go up the stairs, because that's what lines make you do. So all those lines are taking you up that staircase. And that's what you learn with linear perspective. But I just have to go show a photograph of Alfie with his bib, with his nappy on. Just bear with me a second. Right, I'll just show this very quickly. Oh, thank you, Dee Dee. Thank you. So thanks for stopping by, guys. I hope you have a pleasant afternoon. I'm sure there's a lot of other people about. What? Just shut the door, darling, please, for 2 seconds. So this is Alfie with his nappy on. It didn't bother him in the slightest. Alfie trotting up and down with his nappy on. He looks so funny. But at the back, they look like shorts. If I can get another photo. At the back, it just looked like he'd got shorts on. I can't see. I can't see. He's actually sitting down with his nappy on. But he looked like a little John Brown's school days with his long shorts, trotting around with his, with his shorts on. But we will need to buy some nappies. He is cute, but he's a little rat bag. But what my idea was, the gentleman called Colin Bradley did a few portraits of puppies, and I looked at the reflections of the eyes, and I thought they were quite good. And his wispy bits, he's always a scruffy little boy. He's a real scruff, but I thought that would make a real good pastel. So I'm going to try and get. I hit the wrong button then. I'm going to try and get. Um, and again, that was this morning. You know, he's such a cutie. He's such a cutie. This little man was barking at the dawn chorus, little birds, this morning. We had a fab dawn chorus. Well, we would have had. For the first 10 minutes, I have to show you this one though, because I was I was looking on YouTube because hubby brings me a pot of tea up, and then he has sweet tea, and I was doing something on the phone, and I looked up and I thought, oh my God, he's dead. It looks like he's dead. And I thought he's not breathing, and I thought, why? What's wrong with him? Why isn't he breathing? It frightened the life out of me. I just thought he was dead. And then I realised that's how he sleeps anyway. He's just a terror. Yeah, he's just a terror. But he's a bit of a cutie pie, but he knows he's a cutie pie. So I tried to do a couple of portraits of him when we first got him. But this he was my neighbour's dog, and it wasn't her fault. But she got a new job and she couldn't look after him. But he was underweight because he was taken away from his. She got him from somebody else who had had him for a while, and he still should have been with his mum. But we had to weigh him to make sure that he was putting weight on. So that's what he looked like when he was a did. So that's what he looked like, and he's still cross-eyed. Bless him. He's still a bit doe-eyed. We should have called. I would have called him Clarence if I could have done. I would have called him Clarence because he's just cross-eyed. Bless him. But he is such a bit of a cutie boy, I have to say. Um, and he's just got those whiskers that you just want, and that nose. You just push the nose. Oh, talk about the devil, Alfie. Alfie, come here. Here's the monster. Shall we have a puppy cam for a minute? Oh, I don't know if I can do that. Wait a second. He might be upside down. Once I take this off, I'll never get it back again, but I'll rearrange it for tomorrow. Come here, Alfie. What's this? Alfie, what's this? Come on. Here's the Alf. Alfie. He's going to... No, don't go under the desk. Oh, I know what you want to do. Go on then, you jump on there. Whoopsie, he's got my hair. Alfie. Alfie. Alfie, what's this? Come here. Come here. Alfie. No, he's being naughty now. Come on. Alfie, what's this? Oh. He knows he's not allowed. Oh. Come on. He thinks there's something wrong. Here's the Alf. Here's the Alf. So what have I done? You're not allowed in there either. It doesn't stop you normally, does it? Why are you all gungy? This is the cute boy. Aren't you? The Alf. Feet. Absolutely horrendous. You don't know where you go, do you? Scruffy boy. Scruffy boy. But he loves everybody. Don't you, Alf? So we'll pop that back on there. Make everybody sick. So thanks guys for stopping by. I'm going to have to get him down now because he's filthy. I don't know where he goes, bless him. He is a bit, yes. He definitely is. He definitely is a cute boy. And he knows it. He's spoilt rotten. So quite like that. It's the first bit of the page. I'm going to turn all these pencils with their names upright, take a photograph, and then I know all the colours that I've used. And I did that with the Hagrid one, and it worked really well because I did something else in between. When did I do that one? Oops. I wonder if I did it for the dragon. I didn't think I'd done it for the dragon. So I took a photograph of the pencils that I was using so that I could... I don't think my camera will focus on that, but I took the colour so I could read all the colours, and I knew that was my palette because I work in different books at different times, because I think sometimes if this is going to take me another 8 hours, it's not a double page, so it'd probably be about 4 hours, but I might not want to work on this tomorrow. I might want to work in my which I probably try to do, the Daydreams and the Colin Thompson one. So I don't want these pencils out, so I will put them away, but I know that if I get them out, put them in that order, that's how I was working at that time. I'm probably going to finish that little bit off actually, just because this will be different colour, but I like those colours. And even working in those colours, what I have to do now, because this is now pastel and it will move, so I need to use a piece of this. But then I can shut the book without any problems. It's not going to smudge or anything. That is not going to smudge now. When I worked in this corner, even though I used the same colours, there was a bit of a difference because I worked a slightly different way. Must have been, I don't know why, but I did. and so it makes a difference holding the pencils, and sometimes you're a bit heavy handed with one colour than another colour, whereas if you did it consistently it would all look the same. Now I actually quite like that it looks different because the light over there is going to be slightly different to over here, so it doesn't bother me that it's not absolutely exactly the same. But if it was something like a mandala where you needed it to be the same, then you probably want to do that with it. um, but as I say, I'm quite pleased with that. It's a start. I've got my pencils there, and I quite like the colours. They're really nice greys, but they're warmish greys. So thanks for stopping by, guys. Oh, you have a Japanese spaniel, wow. Well, my neighbour's had them. We've been here for about 20 odd years, 25 years. He's just such a scruff. He's just like a woolly bear. Um, but he absolutely adores me, unless my daughter's home, and then of course he's going to say I don't want to get down now. But what he does is when you push him off the chair, he doesn't put his legs out in time, and he flops on the floor. Yeah, he's under the chair now. He knows to go under the chair. Bless him. So has anybody got any more questions? Oh, I didn't realise. I thought I'd stopped recording. Whoopsie. So that's the end of part 1 of the Harry Potter magical places and characters. Thanks for watching.